In fact, I think Colin's with us now. Good morning, Colin. How are you?
Robert, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Let's start with this because we always like to look to the future and the great things that are going on. And I know you can't mention any names, but next Wednesday is a big day for you and your program with recruiting and signing the newest members to the Cowgirl Soccer program. How's recruiting gone for you?
Recruiting's great. It's nonstop. It's ongoing all the time, and we actually were able to sign a couple of kids. We have that early November signing period now. First time that we've been able to do that, which is great. So we got a couple of kids tied up in November, signed, sealed, and delivered. So I can talk about them, which is great. We got a kid from Dallas, Olivia Dow. Plays with the Dallas Stain Club, which is one of the best clubs in the country, and Olivia has been recognized as one of the best players, not just in the Dallas area, but nationally. So very excited about Olivia, and we signed a young lady from Wichita named Peyton Vinci. Peyton's an interesting kid. She plays club soccer out of Oklahoma City with the Oklahoma Energy FC team, and her mother, I believe, is from Wales, and Peyton has actually represented the Wales full national team. So it's kind of a neat deal. Long story how she got there, but neat deal, very experienced player. So yeah, those two kids signed in November. We had a transfer kid come in from Mississippi State here in January. She's on campus now training with us, named Gabriella Coleman. Originally from the Dallas area, played 2 years at Mississippi State. So we've added three already, and we're actually looking to hopefully add one or two more throughout the spring if we're able to find the right fit.
All right, I forgot that you guys had that early signing period. Now, how do you like that as far as breaking up your recruiting calendar? And I know the football coaches loved it when they added the one in December, and football were the only two that didn't have that. You guys had the first Wednesday in February, so I'm assuming you like it.
Yeah, I do. In our sport, the kids commit relatively early, and so really all it is, it's great for the kids. They get it done a couple of months earlier instead of have to wait through the holidays, and then it's just peace of mind for the coaches. In our sport, there aren't as many decommitments or kids making choices right before signing day like there might be in football or basketball. But it's nice to get that paperwork in that way. You're not kind of sweating it for another 2 months. So overall, I like it. I think it's good for the kids and parents and families, and certainly gives the coaches just a little bit of peace of mind.
And maybe the only drawback, and I think this may be the drawback I hear from football, is you're doing a lot of uh, last stage recruiting. When I say last stage, last month or two, actually when you're competing, part of it you're competing,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that's
and
not
that's true.
always easy.
Yeah, that's true. And the deal with us anyway, we have to recruit throughout the fall anyway. That's when we like to bring in some visits because they can come watch our team play. Come out to Neil Patterson Stadium, hopefully get to experience a football game and all the show that goes along with that prior to and after the game. So, for us, it didn't change much simply because we're used to recruiting through the fall season anyway, and it didn't really add a whole lot of difference as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, I haven't asked you, I haven't had a chance to talk to you really since I would imagine at this point, if there's anything left for construction over at Neil Patterson Stadium, it can't be much. That for the most part, just about everything planned in the facility is either completed or pretty close to.
Yeah, I was over there quite recently. We did a tour of the inside of the building, and yeah, it's getting real close. They're doing a lot of touch up work on the inside, paint, some electrical things, moving some furniture in soon. So yeah, it's in the last stages, I believe, as far as the inside of the building. They are having to redo part of the parking lot. So that wouldn't affect us as far as our day-to-day operations, but there is some work. You can see some construction vehicles out there that are still working on the lot, and I know there's some more field work to be done, especially around the outside of the field on the edges. But I don't think Todd and his crew can do that until the weather starts warming up a little bit and the grass will grow. So yeah, it's getting there. Looks awesome. When I walked through it the other day, the locker room is pretty much done, and that's just an amazing place. It's got that wow factor when you walk in, and the reception area is getting close to completed. So yeah, they're getting there. It's getting real close, and we're as anxious as anybody to actually move in and be able to operate out of there on a daily basis. But it's really exciting, and we're ready to get in there.
And so, in a way, I mean, obviously, this class that you are bringing in, they'll once they get here, they'll be the first ones to know nothing but top notch, you know, top of the line, great facility, great stadium. So that obviously that next class you recruit will be the one that will have seen it completed as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. We've had former players come back, and Yolanda Thomas, formerly Yolanda O'Daniel, was here last weekend, and she got to come through and check it out with us. And she's coaching over at Rogers State now. She's the head coach at Rogers State over by Tulsa, and she was in town, and we were able to get her through it. And it's kind of bittersweet for players like Yolanda. They were here when we were scrapping and fighting to have a locker room and a place to change for our kids and all that stuff. And she's really excited for the program, but it's a little bittersweet, I would imagine, because they didn't get to experience it. So that can't be helped. That's just the way it is. But the group that come in this year, yes, they'll be fully integrated into it. And then moving forward, from a recruiting standpoint, it's already made an impact. Being able to show video and kids being able to come watch us play there this fall definitely has impacted our recruiting. For it to get its full impact, you're probably looking at the class of maybe, what's 21, 22 is probably, because that's when we'll actually bring recruits on visits who get to walk through it and be part of it with us and be in the locker room and things like that. So definitely made an impact already, and I think that's only going to increase as we fully move in.
Well, and you know what? Tell Yolanda that she can come use the visitors' locker room on March 2nd
That's right.
because she's bringing her team over here for a spring match.
Well, and that's it. She's coming to play, so she said her kids are really excited to come play in the stadium. And at that point, hopefully we'll be in using the locker rooms. Not 100%, but they'll at least get to play in it. So I know she was really excited, and she's not only one of the great players, but one of the great people to ever come through here. So yeah, we're really excited that Yolanda's able to bring her team back to her old stomping grounds. I think that's pretty cool.
And the cool thing, and especially for fans, if they didn't make it out for whatever reason to any of the matches last year, and I would hope that especially if the weather's nice, the students would pay attention. And Saturday, March 2nd, Rogers State is over here. The next Saturday, March 9th, UCO comes up from Edmond. They'll play at Neil Patterson Stadium. After spring break, March 30th, SMU will come up with their program, and they'll play it at Neil Patterson. Tulsa comes over on Saturday, April 6th, and then you finish up spring with a trip. Your team will trip over to Little Rock, but 4 of the 5, and I remember last spring you guys went on the road. You were road warriors, but 4 of the 5 spring matches for this spring will be in your new digs.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've played all of our spring matches away from home because of the construction going on, and so this year, yeah, we wanted to play as many games as we can here. Number one, to let our kids play here and not have to travel as much, but to also let our fans have an opportunity to get out and see the team play and most certainly enjoy that stadium. So the spring's a lot more low key. The crowds aren't as big, but the games are still competitive, and we're trying to get some things done in preparation for next fall. And it's a good time to come out, enjoy some nice spring weather, and watch soccer. So yeah, I would encourage anybody. And those exhibition games, most of the time, I'm assuming will be free, like they have been in years past. So it's a great chance to just bring the family out and enjoy some soccer and hang out in a beautiful stadium. Could be a nice Saturday out for the family.
Yeah, and obviously spring, it's a rebirth, and for your team last year, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to get you on, because I think fans, especially if they weren't paying as close attention, probably wondered, golly, what happened? I mean, and in preparation, in preparation to do this, and we had you on a weekly basis, and so we kind of, I mean, I saw what was going on, but on Sunday, September 23rd, you guys were heading back home from Lawrence, Kansas, and the Cowgirls had a 10-1 record. I mean, it was wow, man. This is new stadium this year. This is looking great. But you can see it as coaches, and you can explain it better than most. You guys started taking water on the boat in the form of injuries primarily. And the other day when I had a chance to see you over at the athletic center, I just kind of said, kind of take me through what happened. And um, it was one of those years that you're like, how can this keep happening?
Yeah, it was a tough one, and throughout the course of the fall, you didn't want to get caught up in trying to make excuses, and injuries are part of athletics. We get that, and most teams have to withstand a couple of injuries here and there, or some illnesses, or rolled ankles and pulled hamstrings, and all the usual things that happen throughout the year. But last fall was just a unique situation for us. I've been doing this over 20 years, and I haven't had a season like this injury wise in that time. So you mentioned we were 10-1. We were ranked number 12 in the country. We were coming home to play Texas. We were 12, they were 8, I think, and it was just a huge matchup. And we ended up tying that game, and playing very well. But at that point, we lost Julia Lenhart and J.C. Jones, who were, arguably two of our top sort of 3 or 4 players. So then we turned around and played a Bedlam game on the Sunday, and actually lost at OU, which we all know that's, if you're fully healthy, that's a really tough matchup for any OSU sport. So
Sure.
lost a tough one down in Norman. We didn't play particularly well, to be honest with you, but we were still sitting in great shape. So the next weekend we played Texas Tech, and another nationally ranked team, and they came in here, and Marlo Zoller got injured, and we ended up dropping that 1-0 on a penalty kick. Very close game, and Marlo was going to be out long term, and she was our leading scorer at the time. So you think, well, we'll be okay. Somebody else will step up. The next week we go play Baylor. They're number 4 in the country in Waco. Lost 1-0 and lost Haley Woodard and Hannah Webb during the game, 2 more starters. So now you're thinking, all right, we're down 3 of our pretty important players here. This is getting kind of tough. It's testing our depth, but we were still able to compete, and we felt okay. And so the next game, I believe, we played West Virginia at home, so it didn't get any easier.
Yeah, only West Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course during that game, if I remember correctly, we lost Cammie Huddleston, who had actually taken the place of Marlo Zoller. So now you're going sort of 3 deep on the depth chart, and again, it's kind of a tough deal. And so the Sunday we come out, we play Iowa State, and Danny Greenlee was starting in goal, and she got a concussion. So now we lose Danny. So we're down 1 more, and at that point you're down 5 or 6 as your starting 11, and it just became really tough. So, like I said, the kids, I hate making excuses because any coach can point to certain things throughout the year that didn't go their way and would lead to some losses, but this was a truly unique situation. I think our team, had we stayed relatively healthy, I think we were good enough to compete for the Big 12. I'm not saying we would have won it because I think West Virginia and Baylor were both special this year, but we certainly would have been competitive. And we felt like we were on track to make the NCAA tournament. And once you're in, I thought we had the talent to make a run and maybe go a couple of rounds. So it was disappointing from the fact that we had such high hopes mid-season for this group, and really disappointed for the seniors because I felt like they deserved a better ending than that. But at the same time, the kids that we did play, the kids who got out there, I'll tell you what, we played, I think, 5 ranked teams out of the last 6 games, and they were all 1-goal games. So the kids we put out there kept fighting and kept working and kept competing, and were very close to having success. So I was proud of the group's effort, and their mentality was great, but we just, at the end of it, we just didn't have enough to get over the hump against those good teams.
No, you finished 10-7-1, and like you said, a bunch of those teams ranked Tech and West Virginia and Baylor. You tied Texas; they were ranked slightly ahead of you when you hosted them. And 10-7-1, and 6 of the 7 losses were by one goal.
That's right.
It's not like anybody, you know, blew the Cowgirls out of the water. I mean, it was everything was tough, but the reality, and I know coaches don't like to make excuses. I like to call it reality. Everybody's reality is different. You know, if you go through a season, you know, without hardly any injuries at all, well, that year that's your reality. But then the next year you could lose six girls, you know, and a keeper, which is kind of what you did, and that's your reality. It's not an excuse. You just do the best you can with what you got, and so what I wanted to ask is I'm always interested in diving a little deeper
Sure.
for you and your staff. And I know you guys take this extremely seriously. Everybody on that staff is highly competitive. But as a coach, I'm going to guess you learned a lot, and you probably, the girls obviously take lessons out of it. And like you said, you played some girls that got more time on the pitch than they probably would have. And now it makes your team going into this season a little deeper. But what did you learn as a coach? I mean, do you think that, I'm guessing at the end of the day, last year is going to make you a better coach?
Well, there's no
Just dealing
question.
with
You
it.
know, we met with our team after the season. Of course, there was a lot of disappointment and frustration, and a lot, you know, a lot of the frustration came from things we couldn't control. And so, you know, we tried our best to focus late in the year on just controlling what we can. Let's get the group of kids that we have available, get them ready to play to the best of our ability. And you know, I felt like we did that. You know, I felt like if I had it to do over again, I would have changed our shape and our system of play. So we have a certain system and shape that we like to play in, and we were having a lot of success. It's the same shape we played last year when we won the Big 12. So you know, when you've got something going, you don't really mess with it. So early in the season, we're 10-1, and we're thinking this shape really fits these kids, and it's working. After 2 or 3 of the injuries, if I had it to do over again, I would have changed the system of play that we were playing. So maybe that's something I need to do a better job of and be a little more flexible. But, you know, we discussed it as coaches at the time, and we thought it might do more harm than good mid-season to try to change the whole thing. But in hindsight, since we didn't win those games, I probably would have tried something different to see if it would have fit the new personnel that we were putting on the field a little bit better. So that's one thing. If I hope we don't go through this again in the near future, but if we do, we might be a little more flexible and try to change things up mid-season and see if we can't get better results that way.
All right, last thing. Lot to look forward to. We talked about the spring schedule, but with Neil Patterson Stadium, I'm guessing, and I know next year's schedule, you've got some good teams coming in, but talk about how that stadium obviously changes things for the attitude of the team. Hey, man, look at the place we play in. I mean, it helps with your pride and all that. It also helps recruiting. We talked about that. But it helps on the outside too. Teams like, man, we need to go see what Oklahoma State's got. Let's call them up. Let's see if we can't do a home and home. I'm guessing your response to get teams to come in and play in Stillwater is probably a little better as well.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we've never shied away from playing a tough non-conference schedule. It's part of what we do. And as a player, I always wanted to test myself against the best. And I think as our program matured and got better, we certainly tried to do that and tried to. The other thing is for the fans, you want to bring in teams that are going to get the fans excited to come out and watch. And so, you know, last year we played Cal in Florida at home in non-conference games. Here in the future, we've got A&M coming in for a home and home. I think Florida are going to come back and do a home and home with us. So yeah, we're reaching out to some of the top programs because we want to test ourselves. We're in conversation with Duke about maybe getting a home and home put together, and I think the word's getting out. You know, a lot of this stadium's great, but it can work against us a little bit. The teams that come here, they tend to play up a little bit when they come out on that stadium. You know, we've seen a lot of coaches getting their teams so fired up because they're so excited to play. You know, in this brand new place, that's awesome. So it can work for and against you, but yeah, we're definitely continue to try and bring in some quality opposition, and it's not a hard sell to get them to Stillwater anymore. When they hear about and they see our stadium, it's quite easy to get them to come here.
Yeah. Last thing, excuse me, with Colin Carmichael, Yeah, I've gone to NCAA tournament games you've hosted. I've even gone to some road games and watched your team. But one of the most fun games I've ever been to was the first game at Neil Patterson Stadium last year because it was the non-conference Bedlam. And while all the speeches were going on, Coach Holder and the Patterson family and Larry Reese was doing his usual rah rah stuff. I'm looking at the OU team over there, and they're like, you can see their fists balling up. It's like, so you knew you got their best shot that night, and your girls beat them. And I mean, it was kind of fun to watch because you, like you said, playing in that kind of facility with that kind of spirit, with that student section there on the end, and I mean that gets other teams fired up. And that was a cool night. It was a great win, and that's a memory I don't think I'll never lose that memory of Cowgirl Soccer. That's one of those indelible, and I know it is for you and your staff too.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's a night we'll never forget. And from my perspective as the head coach of that team, you know, it, all those speeches
You
were
knew
very
what was
emotional.
going on.
Oh man, I was thinking to myself, they're just giving the OU their pregame talk right there. We don't need their coach doesn't need to say a word. Everybody's talking about Neil's here in spirit and he's watching over us, and if he could say anything, it would be beat OU tonight. And I'm just thinking, man, we better win this game. There's gonna be a lot of disappointed people if we don't find a way to win. So you could just see the pressure kind of building within our team, and like you said, the fire kind of building in OU to take care of business. So no, it was an awesome experience. I'm really glad OU, and I gotta say, Matt Potter is a great coach and a really good person, and he had an option of staying out there while all the dedication was going on, or taking his team into the temporary locker room area and then coming back out when we were finished. And he said, no, we want to be part of this. This is awesome. And I thought it was great. His kids were super respectful. They listened. They weren't fidgeting or playing around. It was great. And I was really impressed with how they handled the situation as well. But I wouldn't expect anything else from Matt's group. They're very classy, and I'm glad it was our rival. I'm glad we won, of course. But to share that night with your biggest rival is probably made it even more special, I would imagine.
Well, we'll look forward to the spring schedule starting. I didn't know Yolanda was coaching Roger State, but that comes up March 2nd. It's the next chance to see the Cowgirls, and they'll come out healthy for the first game of the spring. We love that.
We hope
That'll
so.
be, yeah, that'll be on Saturday, March 2nd, and you get a chance to, if you haven't been or if you love going, you get another chance to be at really the best soccer facility in college, women's college soccer, and that's Neil Patterson Stadium. Hey, thanks for the time. Good luck with spring practice, and we'll look forward to seeing you over there with the matches coming up in March.
Sounds great, Robert. Thanks for having me.
All right, Colin Carmichael.